Hello and welcome to this video on how to download data from iRacing so that you can analyze it in the AiM Race Studio analysis software. So the first thing we need to be able to do is to tell iRacing to be able to download the data. So here I've got the iRacing UI up and I'm going to run a session here configuring it any way that you want to be able to run. I just happen to have it here for Brands Hatch. So I'm going to click on Test Drive, and as this is loading I'm going to explain what's going to happen. So unless you've got a third-party app that is telling iRacing to start logging data, or as they refer to telemetry, it is switched off for users of iRacing. So you have to be able to go in and actually tell iRacing to start logging telemetry. To be able to do that, you have to be able to find the button or the command to be able to tell iRacing to be able to toggle or switch on and off the data that's going to be available for you to be able to analyze. And so that's what we're going to look at in this video today. So the session has opened up, and one of the things that I want to be able to focus on straight away is moving it up to the options area. Now typically when we're in here we use this to be able to configure things like our pedal, wheels, all sorts of variables that we may be looking at in terms of while we're on track, and data is no different from any of these variables. To be able to turn that on, we're going to pop down here to controls, and on the right hand side we've got this area called other controls, and if I scroll down there's this area here called toggle telemetry logging. Now this is the area that turns data on or off for users looking to gather that information that is there. Typically the button command will be Alt-L, but I'm one of those people who doesn't like using my keyboard while I'm racing, and I want to have a button that's closer to me that I can turn on and off, especially if I've forgotten to switch it on. And so I'll show where I've actually configured that on my steering wheel later on so that you can actually control the data. But this is totally up to you, and all you do is you go in here and you click on this area here. Currently it's unassigned, and then you specify whichever button you want to be able to use. Once you're done there, you just click on done and you're back here. Now there's two ways that you can actually tell that you've got the data logging. The first, before you even get into the session, is up here. Notice where the mouse is, or the cursor. If I click on the toggle button now, you'll notice that telemetry shows up and there's this little radio button. But right now it's grey. However, if we pop into the test itself, you'll notice that telemetry is now switched on down here on the bottom left hand side. Now, granted, many people may have configured how these boxes show up in their instance of iRacing, so it's important that you find out where that is for your particular setup. But mine is down here on the bottom left, which seems to be the default that comes with iRacing. And that little grey radio button is now turned red. That means it's actually logging data that is there. Now, you can switch that on at any time, on or off during the session. That's totally at your discretion as you do so. Plus, you don't necessarily need to be running to be able to log that. And you notice that it went from grey back to red, which indicates that it's recording. Once you've done that, you're set up and ready to go to be able to gather the data. But then the next thing is, we've got to find where that data is. So we're going to click on Escape to get out of this session. And we're going to quit out of the iRacing UI. And we're going to start having a look at where that data is housed. So I'll minimize that and I'll open up File Explorer. Now, wherever you've got iRacing as a primary location on your PC is where the rest of this information is going to be found. My iRacing instance is found in Documents, and so you can see up here that it's this PC, Documents, and then iRacing. I've also created a shortcut up here on the left-hand side to get to this particular folder, because I'm often in here working with different variables such as uploading setups that I may have found and looking at other particular variables. But the other variables typically being the telemetry. So you'll notice that right now telemetry is the area that is highlighted. This is where all of your data logging is going to be captured. So if I double click in here, you'll notice that at the top we actually have that session that we just recorded. It's not a huge file because we didn't actually run, but the next thing we're going to look at is what do we do with that data once we've actually run. And you can see down here, this is a file that I did 10 laps of this morning, and the size of the file is much bigger. So it's important to remember these files as we get into the import into AiM conversation. But for now, this is just where your data is housed. I want to be able to finish off this video by being able to talk about the access to the button. And so I was just going to show you that I run a steering wheel configuration from a company called Thrustmaster, and you can configure those buttons for any of those particular settings that you're looking for. This wheel was originally designed for a PlayStation 4, but any of these are configurable for PC and for iRacing. And so one of the things that I've nominated down here, and you can see I've called it data on or off, but you could say it's telemetry, is this button down here, which is on the actual steering wheel unit. So if I'm driving around and notice that for some reason telemetry hasn't been switched on by me, I can turn it on or off, and it's important to be able to note that you actually don't need to turn this on before you run the session. You can actually run it halfway through the session and it will still record whatever it can see during that session that you're in. So hope you found this video useful, and please look out for the next continuation of videos in this series as we look at being able to get that data now from your instance of iRacing into the Race Studio Analysis software. Put a comment below if you've got a different way of being able to configure, or you've got some comments on this, and give it a thumbs up if you like it. So thanks very much.